Pay attention to this series of videos on troubleshooting your AC unit. People pay thousands of dollars for tech school to learn valuable lessons like the one in this video. So your indoor air handler or furnace is blowing room temperature air when it should be blowing cool air. That tells me to check out the outdoor unit. But first, I'm going to check each air filter, no matter where they are, including in the attic if it's there. I'm usually not super antsy to head into the attic on hot summer days, but sometimes there is like a 4-inch media filter at the furnace in the attic, and if it's caked, then that'll solve a lot of your problems. But a lot of times on a service call, you'll get to a house and you'll see a perfectly clean air filter. So I like to acknowledge to the customer for changing their air filter and remind them that it's the single most important thing that you can do to keep your system running clean and healthy for many years. At the same time, I also want to know when they changed it last and how dirty the filter was when they replaced it yesterday. Because how many times have you gotten to the customer's house and they say, "Oh, I just changed the filter yesterday." Anyways, heading outside, from first glance, are the condenser coils clean? Honestly, dirty filters and dirty coils are related to about half of your problems with AC units that aren't cooling enough. Without trying to make this a long drawn-out process, I'm going to assume that you have the basic electrical troubleshooting skills and a multimeter with an amp clamp and get right to the flowchart that I've created. And we're going to also assume that this is a single-stage AC. Two-stage ACs and variable speed systems are similar to single-stage, but a little different. Also, fair warning, it's really easy to get electrocuted troubleshooting, so if you don't have the right skills for this, call a technician who does. Also, I like to tell the customer that I'm going to find and fix the first problem I see. Once I fix it, then I'll run the system again to see if anything else in the sequence of operation is not running right. It's a nice caveat to mention so that they don't think that you're trying to rip them off. Is the fan on top running? Then that lets you know that your high voltage and low voltage are good, meaning your thermostat is successfully calling for cooling to the control board at the air handler, and the control board at the air handler is sending that call to the contactor at the condenser. I'm also going to assume that the contactor at the condenser is pulled in because the fan is running. So we know high voltage is moving from the disconnect through the switch and onto the load side of the contactor. First, let's check for any high or low pressure switches in the refrigerant lines around the bottom of the condenser shell, below the fan. Some ACs have them and some don't. But if so, is the pressure in the system higher than the rating on the high side pressure switch? If it's not, then you'll need to replace the faulty pressure switch. Yes, the pressure is higher, then there's likely a restriction in the system or the system could be overcharged. Same with the low side pressure switch. Is the pressure in the system lower than the rating on the low side pressure switch? If it's not, then replace the low side pressure switch. If it is and the pressure is lower, then you're low on charge. Charge it up and follow your company's process to finding leaks. Is the capacitor for the compressor good? If it's not, replace the capacitor. If the capacitor is charged properly, then we can move on to checking the wires leading to the compressor. Are they good? Check for continuity or high ohms resistance from one end of the wire to the other. And there's 3 of them going there. Also, check for any rubbing of the sheathing on the wires and replace any of the wires if the inner copper is exposed or if there's high ohms resistance. If the wires are good, let's continue by checking the windings of the compressor. But first, is the compressor hot to the touch? And please be careful checking. Keep that answer in mind as you check the ohms resistance at the compressor terminals. Now, does the measurement from common to start and common to run equal or come close to the measurement between start and run? There's an internal overload switch within the windings of the compressor. If you check ohms from start to common and you don't get a reading, and run to common and you don't get a reading there, but you do get a reading between start and run, the internal overload switch is opened or tripped. And if there are any other ways that you experienced technicians know of checking for internal overload with your meter, please let us know in the comments down below. If the limit switch is open and the compressor is hot, it needs to cool down. Of course, with the power off to the unit, get a hose and gently pour water on top of the shell to cool it down. It can take about 30 minutes of cooling before the internal switch closes and allows the voltage back to the common terminal. Be careful when you turn the unit back on later though. Standing water and high voltage aren't a good mix, so make sure your terminals are covered and exposed wire is waterproofed. You're going to need to find the reason why the compressor is overheating, but never start that compressor up without replacing the cover on the terminals. A terminal could blow out, and an electrical spark could catch the oil inside the compressor and send it outwards, which would become your very own flamethrower. Having the cover over the terminal plate will help control the flame. Are there high run load amps compared to the RLA spec on the data plate? Here's how to tell. Use your amp clamp on the common wire, no closer than 4 inches or so to the compressor. On a typical 85-degree day, the amps are usually going to be running at about 60 to 70% of its RLA spec on the data plate. Even closer to that RLA number on the hottest days of the year, right? Because the compressor is having to work harder to remove that heat from inside. So let's say on your 85-degree day, the compressor has an RLA of 15 amps, and you're reading 9 or 10 amps. That's pretty normal. The closer you get to 15 or even over 15, the more problematic it's going to be on your compressor overheating. On the hottest days of the year, I wouldn't want to see those amps above 13. Whatever is causing that needs to be addressed. Is the compressor stuck? Throw a start kit on it to give it that kick that it might need to get going. If that works, let the customer know that their compressor is on borrowed time. I see this happen on older systems first startup of the year after a long winter. The bearings seize up sometimes and just need a little kickstart. A nod to those of you who don't believe compressors should be outfitted with a start kit. So, is the reason that the compressor overheated refrigerant related? I would be ready with your hoses attached to the high and low sides and a tank with a charging scale. That way, when you do fire the system up and you notice low pressures, you don't want to waste time going to get those in case the compressor overheats again. Low refrigerant means low lubricant equals overheating. Is the problem mechanical? The bearings inside of the compressor that move the scroll could be worn. Worse, they could be stuck. You're going to be able to tell if it's struggling by reading a higher amp draw than the data plate suggests.
Yeah, looks like it's got a little copper plating. Yeah, this is worn. This bearing should be thicker. That's the drive bearing that sits under the scroll. And actually, I think this is what's... Oh, look at all that copper. Wow. It's a chunk of copper. Bunch of copper.
Oh shit.
Is it electrical? I had this problem once. I couldn't figure out the issue on a compressor until I removed the start kit from the circuit. And when I did, it magically started up. So I sold the owner a new start kit, and we haven't been back since. Here's another thing to check on the electrical side, and you may have already noticed this when you were ohming out the windings. Check for loose, common, start, or run terminals. Check for burnt wiring or any charring or black soot around the terminals. Most compressors have a rubber plug for the female end of the connection to the compressor, but there are some that just have plain old spade connectors. These poor terminal connections could be creating a line voltage problem at the compressor. Is the wire size good? If the wires aren't sized properly, upgrade them. If they are good, then make sure that the breaker at the main panel is good. Those tend to trip easier and easier if they break too many times. Bad breakers can really heat up with faulty wiring connections too, and this all feeds back to the condenser. One final check that you could do is upon startup, you can check the voltage from common to start and common to run. It'll probably take 2 different meters so you can check it simultaneously, but the voltage needs to be within about 10% plus or minus of its rated voltage. Residential motors are rated for 208 to 230 volts, so verify the voltage is above 187 and no higher than 253 volts. If running through this chart doesn't find your problem, then I don't know what to tell you. By running through this flow chart, you will be able to successfully diagnose why the fan on the outdoor condenser might be running, but the compressor is not. Let me know any bad compressors you've come across and what got it going again in the comments below. If this is your first time watching our channel, please click subscribe down here on the bottom right. And if you click that little bell next to it, you'll be notified of all of our videos as they come out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. You're watching Fox Family Heating and Air. Don't forget to subscribe. And check out more of our videos by clicking on the right side of the screen.